guys, I hope you're still with us. We do apologize for all the technical difficulties. As you can see, we're still with the Nkuhumas, and you've been watching these little cubs rough and tumble and play for the last little while. Remember, this is a live African safari, and you can ask us questions about what these little guys are up to by using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or use the email address questions@WildEarthTV. So no blade of grass or pile of elephant dung is safe with these little terrors around. Mom is the ideal jungle gym. And of course, if your sibling has a toy, you want to take it for yourself. My sibling's bush? Yes. Now we arrived here at about the perfect time as they finished suckling. So they decided it was playtime, and they've literally been playing incessantly since before 3 o'clock today, or 3 p.m. Central African time. Oh, got my piece of elephant dung. You almost don't need words for this. It sort of speaks for itself. Wonderful to spend time with these little guys. Oh, back on top of Mom. I'm sure Mom appreciates elephant dung in the schnoz. Now all these little games are honing their skills for when they're older. Oh, I could hear that on Mom's tummy. Dum. Look at that, aren't they just too cute? Now, John Boy is wondering, is the next junior here somewhere? It's possible. It's still very difficult to sex them at this age. We'll have to wait and see, I think, John Boy. But there's a strong possibility that there could be a male amongst these little guys. Look at that, all on top of Mom. Mom's probably the most tolerant of all these rough housing. Look at that, they are really loving those elephant dung balls. That is about the fourth one that's being completely dismantled. And I almost don't know what to say. It's just sit back and enjoy these little horrors. Look at that, all three piled on top. Let's see how long it takes Mom to get up and move. Oh, bite Mom's ear, throw elephant dung on her. Ooh, what has Mom spotted? Quite often you see lions look up like that. They can sometimes spot vultures, but I didn't see what it was. What'd you see? Can't see what she's saying.
A little circle.
Ah, there we go. That's what Mom spotted. We can't get there, but there is a Basileia eagle flying over. But look at that. Just, there we go, having a break on Mom's tummy. It is absolutely gorgeous. Now there are some other, there we go. That was not Basileia genre.
No, there was a Basileia as well. That's a vulture.
Yes, well done, genre. That was a vulture. Sorry, just going to be on the game drive radio for a second. And you just come straight in behind me. So we are incredibly lucky to be able to spend the amount of time we do with these little creatures and, of course, all the other creatures out here. But there is something quite special about little lion cubs. Especially when they're being as playful as these three. All you can do is giggle. Oh, going for the killer throat hold. Now, you can see that grip for the throat is an instinctive grip. It's not something that's taught. And you can see it's getting a bit, not too serious, but this is still play, but a lot of that behavior is very, very instinctive. This is this just special to sit here. Oh, just they haven't stopped. Mom's not going to get her 20 hours of lion cat nap today. Cat in Tampa says now she understands why moms leave their little cubs in a den. It's to get away from them for a while. As you can see, they are hard work. Oh, she looks like those weary eyes. I'm just going to close my eyes and pretend they're not there. Okay, so hasn't this been spectacular? Let's jump across to Jamie so she can say hello quickly, and we'll be right back here.
Good afternoon and welcome on our sunset safari. Really quickly, because I don't want to take you away from these cubs for too long. We are in Arathusa, and if we stop and have a quick look, I've followed the GPS coordinates to where Sindile, the leopard with the collar, last was, and here are his tracks. Still quite small, almost female size, but not quite, going in this direction. So we're going to follow up on those tracks straight away, but before Brent has to leave, let's send you back across to those adorable lion cubs. I forgot to introduce myself.
There we go. It looks like they're settling down to suckle now, after all that playing. It was a bit of competition, even though Mom's got more than enough nipples. Like any good sibling, you always want the one your brother or sister has. Now, we're going to have to move on shortly. We have been here for a long time, and there are quite a lot of other vehicles who would like to get here before it's dark. Duncan. Duncan, if you'd like to come down to the sighting, just let me know and I'll make space for you. It's very nice. Cubs are playing and sucking. Copy. Okay, guys. Here we go. They've calmed down a little bit. Now they're going to suckle. What we're going to do is we're going to give the other guys a chance to get in here. If there's enough time before sunset, we'll try come back, but I can't promise. But let's go see what else we can find here in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve on this glorious sunset safari. Bye-bye, little ones. So, the rest of the pride trying to sleep nicely away from the the terrors. They didn't escape completely, but definitely getting less trouble than Mom. So let's move on and see what else we can find. And so while we get out of this spot with this little line, let's jump back on board with Jamie for an update.
Alrighty, now that I've had some time to calm down to just a minor panic, good afternoon, my name is Jamie, and I have Chad on camera with me this afternoon. And yes, we are tracking Sindile with the collar. So sorry about that. For new viewers, that must have been terribly confusing. To go back a little bit, actually, let's go back 2 days, where we were searching for Shadow, and we came to Red Dam. Remember how I pulled over at the side of the road? Well, you might not have been watching, but for those that were, I pulled over at the side of the road that morning when we were tracking Shadow, and I said, that's not a female's tracks, that's a male's tracks. And then this revelation came forward from Jerry Camacho yesterday about the GPS points of where Sindile was. He'd met his mom. That's why, and it frustrates me because I should have listened to my instinct in this respect. I said it, I sort of half mentioned it that day, and then I thought, no, don't be ridiculous. You don't know that. Let's not put any conjecture forward. But his GPS point was exactly where we found those tracks, exactly where Shadow was. And that's why yesterday afternoon on the sunset safari, Shadow was pushing and pushing and pushing to get away from that area. She was moving her cub from Sindile. Now, for those of you for whom that is total gibberish, my utter apologies. I know that not all of you are totally clued up on the goings-on. We'll have a look at the zebra that are around us, and then I will explain a little bit. So I'm talking about leopards. There's a female leopard in this area called Shadow. She's 9, nearly 10 years old, and she has something of a sad history when it comes to raising cubs. Her last cub, Sindile, was just about a year old when last year on one of our live safaris he was found with a dog that he had caught from one of the local villages. It had obviously escaped in. Dog proved to have rabies. Sindile went into quarantine for 8 months, and he's only just been released the last 2 months. And the wonderful people that have been in charge of this whole process have been tracking his movements via a big satellite collar that he wears. What is fascinating about that is for a while it went a little bit quiet. We didn't know exactly where Sindile was. It doesn't regularly give updates. But it all coincided, and now it all ties together with what was happening with Shadow and her cub yesterday. Why she kept pushing to the west. Why we found male tracks with her. He was looking for her again. So Shadow has since had another young cub that she now no longer wants Sindile anywhere near her. Her life is invested in her new baby at this point, and in fact Sindile is a very real threat to her little cub. And I think that is why Shadow was so incredibly nervous yesterday. It wasn't anything to do with us, and everything to do with young Sindile being in the area. And now I look back and I want to kick myself because it was so obvious. Anyway, long story short, we've come to find Sindile. He's not at the point on the last GPS position, but as I showed you, those have to be his tracks that we found in the road. Now, unfortunately, some twit drove over them, and that some twit is me. I couldn't see the angle of the sun. I just didn't see them, so I drove over them for a little bit before I saw them, and now I can't work out where they've gone. So I'm doing loop after loop in this area in the hope that Sindile hasn't gone too far since last night. It's a difficult one. Those tracks are fresh, but a male leopard, when he wants to, and Sindile has shown it in terms of his movements, they can cover enormous amounts of ground when they want to. Okay, so that was the short version of the story. There's a slightly longer version in that I tracked Shadow and her cub this afternoon after Brent nearly found her on the sunrise safari. He came so close. Sometime in between drives, she'd crossed out into Simbambili, a property outside of our Traverse area on the sunrise safari. She then came back onto Djuma in between drives, and she collected her little cub, and she's gone back. I found where her tracks have crossed with her cub onto Simbambili. So she has moved back. She's obviously made a kill somewhere there. And again, close to young Sindile. I just have a feeling he just watched me walk all around his tracks with that relaxed facial expression of his. But we're going to check really carefully. It's amazing. He's come back to his old haunts. He's now 20 months old. He must... No, that can't be true. He must be even older than that, actually. He must be at least 21 months old at this point. And he's basically reached the age where he would be independent anyway, and he's been looking after himself remarkably well in the time that he has been, since he's been released back into the wild. And I mean, this situation is not without precedent, but almost. It really is the most fascinating scenario, and we were lucky enough to be witness to what might not have been the first encounter with Sindile that Shadow had, but it was certainly a very dramatic one. Oh, I don't believe it. This is exactly where we had Shadow yesterday. He must have come up from here. Oh, but yes, we were witness to a very dramatic scene where Shadow was calling her youngest cub, and he kept responding, and every time he responded, she would behave aggressively towards him and push him and scratch him and growl at him, because of course her instinct is telling her to get rid of him, and his instinct is telling him that he's still a little mommy's boy, and that he wants to still be around her. A fascinating situation that we've been very privileged to witness. And Sindile has won over the hearts and minds of many, many people due to the fact that he has just had such a rough start at such a young age. He's an incredible little leopard, except he's not so little anymore. I've only seen him once since he was released back into the Sabi sand. It's because he's been running like a normal dispersal male does. Right, so we've been driving basically from when we started talking to you. When we started talking to you, we were at his tracks. Where we are now is where I found Shadow. I found Shadow basically just by this leadwood tree at the start of the sunset safari yesterday. Not quite, but essentially. Oh, so many things make so much more sense. I'm just checking the big jackal breeze around here. Come on, Sindile. There are lots and lots of people who would very much like to see you. Perhaps it's time to put our previous knowledge of Sindile's old haunts to use. Let's go check the places where he used to hide. And a really big hello to Liam, who is 7 years old and watching with his Auntie Joyce. Now Liam, I think you don't believe your Auntie Joyce because she told you that leopard pee smells like buttered popcorn. And guess what, Liam? It is absolutely true. To almost everybody in the world who drives past fresh leopard pee, it smells like popcorn. Oh, isn't that amazing? At least it doesn't smell horrible. Apparently it smells like freshly buttered popcorn to everybody else except me. I don't know, I can't smell it, but my sense of smell is not very good. But yes, Liam, your aunt is absolutely right. Auntie Joyce is right. Leopard pee smells like buttered popcorn. So whenever you drive past a tree that a leopard has peed on, or when you're driving in an area and you smell buttered popcorn, then you know that that leopard is somewhere close. I wish I could smell buttered popcorn now, Liam, because then it would mean that the leopard that I'm trying to find you is somewhere close to us. I really, really do. Because I know he's here somewhere. And knowing him, just lying up in the shade, watching me drive past, time after time after time. Obviously you can see I'm going back on myself now. I would really, really love to be able to find Sindile for you. And for me, I would love to see him once again. Be interesting, the last time I walked Sindile was many, many months ago, and he followed me back to the car on foot. I had been out tracking him, and he decided it would be a really fun game to stalk me back to the vehicle. At the time, he was only about 11 months or so old, so it wasn't very scary at all. It was just a little boy leopard playing with me. I'm not sure how I would feel about it now. Not terribly comfortable, I have to tell you. At now nearly 2 years old, he's not quite so little anymore, and he's certainly got a bit more of an intimidation factor. Although he's still the same old handsome Sindile, just with a slightly more adult face. Okay, back again we go. Sorry, zebra, watching me with confusion. Here we go. Our zebra watching us once more. Wondering why on earth we are going backwards and forwards. Of course, our wild zebra are more than capable of defending themselves and running away from predators. But Aaron, you were wondering about, oh, and thank you by the way, I did have a lovely weekend. You were wondering about the measures that the surrounding areas take in terms of avoiding predators. I'm not entirely sure if you are talking about the livestock or the local villagers. So Aaron, who is watching all the way in Florida, well, essentially, the place that we're in, the reserve that we're in, we're still in a fenced-off area. But they can't really, no fence in the world stops hyenas or leopards, or apparently domestic dogs at time, although that was a serious exception to a general rule. And even every now and again the lions get out. In terms of measures that the local people take, there's actually not that many in the surrounding areas. There's a couple of superstitions, a couple of trees that they will put over their roofs to help to stave off any wild animals. But other than that, the cattle are mainly kept sort of corralled around the villages themselves. In this area, we don't have a major problem with predator and people interaction. But there are places in the world where there is a major problem with it, and there are a lot of very clever people trying to look at solutions as a way of reducing that interaction between predator and people, whether it's through the attacking people's livestock or attacking people themselves. One of the things is to, in some cases they've introduced alpacas or llamas to herds of sheep. That's for the smaller predators. Obviously that's not going to work to deter a lion, but apparently they work as really good sheepdogs when it comes to things like caracal and jackal attacking sheep. So that's one of the interesting ways in which they have started preventing it. There's also a big drive towards government repaying the villagers after any livestock that's been lost, and that in turn prevents the villagers from wanting to take extreme measures and kill the animals concerned. But for the most part, as soon as a wild animal is seen, in our area in South Africa certainly, the local vets and the state authorities are called in, and they will come and return it to wherever it happened to come from. I'm going to do one more squiz at where I last saw Sindile's tracks. While I do that, let's go back to Brent and find out what his plans are now that he's left those wonderful lion cubs.
So we had tracks of a male leopard on the Sunrise Safari, but we got sidetracked by the impala alarm calls and the proximity of shadow. So we're going to go back into that area and see if we get any luck there. Now, they were heading north, but I think they could have come back across the road over a hard patch, and we were live while we were following them, so it's a possibility I might have missed where he might have made a little sly turn. And I'm hoping it's Mr. Djuma, the ghost from the north, my favorite adult male leopard around on Djuma at the moment. I think my favorite male leopard on Cheetah Plains is going to have to be Mr. Q. He's such an incredible leopard to photograph. Remember, if you would like to ask a question, you're more than welcome to. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or use the email address questions@WildEarthTV. Hi Sean. And now Sean's asking a little bit about our life out here in the bush. And he says, do we take turns driving into town to get everyday things and food, or is it just one person's job? If it was one person's job, there'd be none of us left here. It's literally the bane of our lives as a town trip, but we don't even get food. Our food is delivered out here to us once a week, but once a week we try only send one town trip a week, and that's to get fuel for the vehicles and tech stuff, camera stuff, personal stuff, and whoever's turn it is generally gets a list of things for everyone. But it is, I'd say it's pretty well spread. It depends on which department is heaviest at the time, so which department has the most people in it. So at the moment, the department with the most staff would be the final control in general. So they would be the ones who would generally draw the short straw for the town trips. But because it's about, or now with the road states at the moment, about an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half from here to town. So if you finish drive at 9:30, have breakfast and get everyone's lists 10:30, you're in town by 12:30. By the time you manage to collect everything, it's very unlikely that you'll be back in time for the sunset safari. So in those circumstances, like for the moment, I think cam ops and presenters at the moment, we are lighter than we normally are. So we will not be making town trips at the moment. And of course, we are lucky enough that Steph and his family live in Hoedspruit. So Steph heads out most weekends. So if there's anything desperate on a Monday or Tuesday morning, Steph can always grab it and bring it back. Rebecca in final control says she loves going to town. She's more than happy to do the next one. Now, Rebecca in final control, I think, is our newest staff member. That might be why she still has a love of the town trip. And I don't think she's had to go, I'm not going to say the company name, but the big hardware store. She hasn't had to do too many hardware store trips where you order steel 7 hours in advance, ask for it to be cut to exactly 2 meters in length. You arrive the day after you've ordered it and your steel is still not cut. So you say, listen, give me the angle grinder, I'll cut the steel. No, you're not allowed to. Come back in an hour. You come back in an hour, your steel is still in the exact same place. Come back in 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes your steel hasn't moved. So you may or may not have to start getting a little bit sarky before things get done. But that is the nature of the low fault, which is sometimes actually quite commonly known in South Africa as the slow fault. Everyone down here is not in the big rush that the city dwellers are in. So not quite as stressed about everything happening right now. Which for some of us who have less patience than others, it's a little bit trying. Now apparently Rebecca says she only goes to town for the ice cream. Rebecca. Now Rebecca will know that. Rebecca does certain things, and quite often I'll just look at her across the table and shake her head. Yes, those are the leopard tracks, John Ray. John Ray suddenly leans over. It's the same male leopard tracks I was following this morning. I lost them just over this ridge, although there has been a lot of vehicle traffic on here. So I might have to do a bit of, and there's been some big tractors as well. So remember where I last had those tracks. So while we follow these tracks, let's see how Jamie's tracking's been going.
Brent and I both hot on the trail of trying to find you each a different leopard. Let us see how our afternoon goes in that respect. I'm not doing so well. I went back to his last tracks, I can't find anything. I've come back, taken a different route, I'm going to do a big loop, and then I'm going to just follow my instinct. My instinct says to me he's going to be hiding in the drainage line around Red Dam. And the only reason I say that is because that's where we used to find him when he was a cub. So it doesn't really gel with any particular logic other than just he might be searching for somewhere that's a comfort place, familiar to him. Particularly since it must be very scary for him in this area. His potential father, Tingana, is dominant in this region, along with a very large male called the Anderson male. And both of them, you don't really know how they would react to him being back in this area. He's almost an adult. He's almost at the point where he would be qualified as an adult. And male leopards generally aren't tolerant of males in their territory. And young males of Sindile's age and right up until about 3.5, 4, even up to 5, spend most of their lives ducking and diving until they are big enough and strong enough to compete for a territory of their own. But then, I suppose my logic doesn't really make sense that he'd be looking for comfort, except that it does, because he's still in this area. I also still feel as though I would not be at all surprised if he didn't try once again to reconnect with Mom. And I'm sure once again was met with fierce resistance, almost bordering on flat-out aggression, which I think must be confusing him terribly. He can't understand, and it is amazing how after 8 months he still has that bond and that connection with her, even if she doesn't quite feel the same about him. And it would be so wonderful if we could find him. And Shamal thinking along similar lines to the ones that I am. And as always, good afternoon, Shamal, and welcome to our sunset safari. It is lovely to have you on board. Shamal, like myself, thinking that perhaps Sindile might be sticking to old habits, knowing him, perhaps perched upon a termite mound, looking beautiful, and just waiting to be the star of the afternoon. Shamal, I would not be at all surprised if that were the case. And because you've said that, and because it coincided exactly with the time I spotted a strange shape on the termite mound, I'm now desperately trying to see if it's a leopard, but it's straight into the sun, and knowing me, rather than knowing Sindile, it's probably another leopard-shaped termite mound. I'm very, very good at spotting them. I don't think that's a leopard, except that it feels like it's moved. Ah, sun, must you be in my face that way? Thank you. I think, honestly, Gert, I think it's a termite mound shaped leopard. It's not the top part, it's on this side of it. It's on the southern side. There. If I go forward, shall we try? Am I going to be embarrassed? Let me go forward a little bit. Ooh. Let me go forward, the other forward, not the backward. Oh, it's just there. That shape looks like it could be a leopard head. And the go-away birds are calling. It's just a termite mound, isn't it? Yep. And a leaf. A termite mound and a leaf. Fantastic. We're off to a wonderful start. It was worth checking, I suppose. It would have been a very good spot if it had been a leopard. It's not a leopard, though. It is a termite mound that is shaped like a leopard. That's happened to me so many times in my guiding career, I am no longer embarrassed by it. When you first start out, you feel a sense of crippling disappointment and embarrassment when you've stopped your guests and you've got them all looking through binoculars, only to realize that it's not what you thought it was. you get to the point where it becomes sort of par for the course. And with Gert's wonderful camera, it does make checking it out a lot easier. Alright, he hasn't come this way. I feel relatively certain about that because I think that he would have walked on this road. The reason I say that is because, as with all predators, our lovely leopards love to walk on roads. That's because it's easier, it's quieter, they don't have to worry about ducking and diving underneath various leaves. So whilst they will naturally walk off the road and through the bush, they do often make their way onto our man-made roads because it is just easier. And so I think time has come to put my instincts to the test and go and see if we can't find him around Red Dam. There's just that funny feeling. And a very big hello to Djuma in Oklahoma on the subject of our lovely Sindile. Djuma, we don't know exactly where Sindile was released. We know that it was on the property known as Gowrie, but that is the massive northern section, most of the northern section of the Sabi Sand. So I don't know exactly where he's released. I imagine he was released close to where he was caught, which was around Arathusa, so around the boundary Arathusa-Djuma area, but I'm not 100% sure of that. I don't necessarily think it was the case, because I think that they were looking for somewhere without, in his initial stages of his release, without any male leopards, big male leopards, that were in the vicinity. But of course it's impossible for them to know that with absolute certainty. And Djuma, in terms of how far he's travelled, well, luckily we've had the wonderful Gerrie Camacho keeping us up to date on his movements, and he has moved a huge amount. He's gone into the Kruger National Park, which is all the way to the east of us. He's gone all the way south of us into Mala Mala. He spent quite a bit of time hanging around his natal range, the place that he was familiar with, as is to be expected. But he didn't stick around all the time. He's moved, he's explored, he's gone onto Elephant Plains, which is just to the west of our boundary on Arathusa. He's gone right up into the Manuleti before, and he has spent a bit of time on Djuma as well. Now he's doing what a normal, actually what is, I feel, relatively normal for a leopard of his age. Just establishing himself, trying to find where he feels comfortable, and essentially scooting around until he finds a place, a suitable vacuum, where he doesn't feel too much of a threat from other males. And I mean, of course, Gerrie has been doing a lot of comparisons with the normal male leopard dispersal pattern, and it'll be fascinating to hear what conclusion he draws from this whole scenario. And he's been very, very good at updating all of us on Sindile's movements. But he's moved. He's moved a lot. But that was to be expected. And in a way, we should be glad that he hasn't stuck around too much around Shadow's cub. I don't know, we really don't know that he would necessarily be a threat to that bull cub. He may, often leopard siblings meet up and they don't behave aggressively towards each other, but this is such an unusual scenario that we just were never 100% certain that it was going to be that way. Okay. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go drive through the drainage lines where we used to find Sindile. I don't have any... oh, hold on. Somebody is trying to call me. Standing by. Negative. No, I didn't. Okay, copy. Very interesting. Are they not her going south to fetch the cub? Okay, copy that, thank you. I'm going to follow up in that area. There's Medoro and Konzo as well. Copy, thanks. Alrighty. I'm just thinking, bear with me a moment. I'm gathering thoughts, trying to solve a puzzle here. But basically, every time we go out into the bush and we go tracking and we try and build up a story of what's happened with our characters, it's kind of like building a jigsaw puzzle. But you might have an idea of the overall picture, but you've lost the box or the cover, and you don't have any of the side pieces or the corners. Does that make any sense? That's sort of what our day-to-day thinking process is like. Cedric has just picked up on tracks going south. I'm very confused because I felt that she killed something, Shadow that is, killed something on Simbambili and went to fetch her cub and then went back along to Simbambili again. But Cedric says he's got very fresh tracks on Parallel Road going south, which is the opposite direction. But it would make sense if she was going that way and coming back. But he's also got mail tracks. So what on earth is going on? I tell you what, well, let's go contemplate it. We'll go contemplate it because I'll listen to my instincts just because I feel I should. Let's go through that drainage line and then we shall see. Because we should have signal down there in Rusty. And then we shall see whether or not he's anywhere there. I think he's been following her around. I don't think she's following him. I think that he's following her. Ooh, very, very interesting point from Robin. Wow, Robin. That is a really good point. How do I feel, and I mean, of course we'll never know, how do I feel things would have played out if Sindile had been female? Sorry, my game drive comms were a little bit loud over there. Sure, Robin, I'm not sure. I think that because female cubs they show a greater degree of independence than the males do, I think that perhaps she would have been less attached to Shadow or to returning to Shadow. They become independent sooner. They don't regularly go back to their mothers after they've gained independence in the same way males do. But I don't know. Robin, I'm going to think about your question and come back to it. In the meantime, Brent has got some very large pachyderms.
So we are on our way back to the lions, and while we were there, this little herd of elephants just charged down to have a drink. We just famba up the Shkova. Famba up that Shkova. And your Bugarangara just around the corner. Sorry about that, just giving some directions to the lions. And we're going to head back there shortly as well. Well, Cindy from North Carolina, look at that hooded vulture. Just swooped in next to the eddies. Well, it looks like the one eddy's going to chase it. Just because it can. Sorry, so Cindy from North Carolina was hoping for eddies. Well, there we go, Cindy. Hopefully they don't chase the lions. Well, let's get a little bit closer to the eddies. Looks like they're going to spray some mud. Bye. We're just going to pop down next to the elephants before we head back to the lions. And I'm sure Cindy is very happy about the fact we've got some beautiful elephants. And the lions actually look like they're watching the ellies. Like, oh, please don't come this way. We're so comfortable here in the cool sand. I'm just going to show you where the lions are quickly. And so there the lions, watching the ellies intently. Or the little ones are at least. Just going to get onto the other side of that ellie. Just pointing for the next vehicle to where the lions are. There's some hooded vultures around as well. Now hooded vultures like that one, oh, it's about to have a drink. Now, there we go, we're going to focus on the eddies. We'll look at the hooded vulture just now. Oh, sorry, Jean, there's an awkward angle for you. And so you can see how relaxed these eddies are. They're kicking up the mud. Oh, look at the little one's going to have such a ball playing in the mud. Oh, doesn't that look fun? Now I'm sure they can smell. Oh, is this half trunk? It is too. There we go. That female with the short trunk and her little family group. Oh, loving the mud. Oh, listen to that. Elephants having a chat. And of course, a lot of their chats are far too low for us to see. Really getting stuck in now. You can hear her kicking it, digging down to get into the... Oh, isn't that nice? Ooh. Putting her belly on the mud, probably nice and cool. Now, of course, she's not as able as the other ellies to spray mud with her trunk. You'll probably find that's why she lies... Oh, look at that! And she's nearly got her whole head under. As you can see, she's trying to flick mud. She's just not as adept because she's missing that bottom part of her trunk. Well, it looks like the baby's copping her between the legs there, putting its head right down into the mud. Of course, at that age, they're not as able to spray mud yet either. And that's just because they don't have control of their trunks. It's definitely a baby day for Jean and I. Oh, that's... Oh, down and down and down and down. Oh, look at the big one. She's sat down. She's rolling around trying to get up now. But look at that. She's lying right down on her side, scratching her head. Little one's going to come. Oh, look at that. Isn't that incredible? Now, it almost looks like pure enjoyment. I think if you had to describe how that elephant's feeling while rolling around in the mud like that is pure ecstasy. Yes, you look so happy. Tail swinging. Oh. Oh, isn't that just too sweet? So cute. Oh, look at that. Have a snooze. Now, of course, as much fun as it looks like she's having, there are some valuable side effects. One is that mud will cake any little parasites, ticks, and things, and once it dries, it'll harden and they'll fall off. But I think more so, it just looks like pure enjoyment, pure fun. What are you doing, you little horror? I don't think there's much more you can say about that little bit of behavior. It was priceless. Well, let's leave those Ellies and let's go see what the other bundles of cuteness are up to. Oh, actually, let's just have one last look. Playtime over, time for a drink. There we go. Chris Ragg says the half-trunk Ellie is giving a sunscreen application lesson. Yes, mud could definitely be used as sunscreen. I think it's got a few more therapeutic effects for elephants. I think it just feels nice. Okay, Eddies. And you see old Bob the Bachelor, the hippo behind him there. Just reverse a little bit. And looks like they're just going to have a drink. So while we make our way towards those wonderful lions, let's see what Jamie's got on Arathusa.
Let's go to the parrot.
Oh, we've got a hippopotamus, but sorry, just hold on. Things have changed. We're trying to work out why the turtle doves have been fluttering about, and it's because a brown-headed parrot has been chasing them. And I'm sorry, that happened right as Brent sent you across to them. I just had to have a look at that, because it was marvellous. I couldn't work out why the Cape turtle doves were so upset until I realized that they were being chased by a parrot, which I have never ever seen before. In fact, I had no idea that it happened. And I think he might even be going in to do it again. He's fluttering down to have a drink. Okay, maybe he's made peace with them. I think he's made peace. It was fascinating. He circled around here about 3 times, chasing them away. Oh, everybody's gone again. Mass panic. Well done, Gert. Jeep. Oh, this is an indigenous parrot, by the way. It's not something that has been introduced. We have a couple of different species of parrots in South Africa. The brown-headed is probably the only one that you're going to see on our live safaris for now. We do also get the Mayers and the grey-headed parrot. The grey-headed parrot, a little bit very, very similar to the brown-headed parrot, except its head is grey and not brown, as its name possibly suggests. And then the Mayer's parrot, a little bit more brightly coloured, but you find them in the more arid areas and the western areas of South Africa. Alright, well, our brown-headed parrot has ceased his Cape turtle dove chasing antics for now. That was really fascinating, though, so we can actually probably think about talking about the fact that Red Dam has a hippo in it over the last few days. It's the first time I've ever seen this. I saw him for the first time a couple of days ago, but other than that, it's the first time I've ever seen a hippopotamus in Red Dam. Oh, sorry, that's my foot on the brake. Over to Brent, who's got lions.
The elephants changed their mind, and we just got behind the lions, and the Ellies haven't spotted them. I'm sure they might be able to smell them. Whether the elephants decide to come chase the lions, well, it could be quite interesting. They might just move off, but all the lions suddenly ears were up. They're trying not to move too much. Now, I have seen lion cubs chased by elephants before. It is one of the funniest things I've seen out in the bush, because even a small elephant is quite big for a lion. So it looked like they were actually going to go the opposite direction, and then they actually popped up right next to us. Oh, we can hear them. The cubs are enthralled. They cannot take their eyes off the elephants. Look at that. So, there the Ellies. There's Half Trunk. And even though she's moved away now, the wind might change. Oh, or a lion might sneeze. No, it looks like they're going to move away from the lions. Shame. The cubs absolutely nearly jumped out of their skins when the other lioness sneezed. They were so intently watching the elephants that they just got a big, big fright when the other lioness sneezed. Now, here's a hard-working mom. And the Ellies are going to move off. Now you see how the cubs are a little bit closer to mom now. Not so adventurous. Still watching the Ellies. The Ellies have stopped up there and are having a dust bath. Just hear their low rumbles coming through. If there's two, but as soon as you get close, I'll make space for you. Copy, just let us know when you get to the turn off the Buffelshoek Dam. Look at that. All the excitement of having elephants close by is over. It's time for a little snooze on a log. Now, those cubs are not being, well, they are being very cute, but not being as active. Just want to have a look. Oh, big yawn there. Up to my right in the tree next to us. There we go. Up here, we've got 3 hooded vultures. We did see one drinking not too long ago. And what they are doing here is, they might have seen the lions, thought there's a kill, but being the smallest of the vulture species, and with the weakest beak, and you can see there, it's not a very prominent beak. Now, what they'll do is when the lions move on, they'll come down and eat their dung. So there's obviously quite a lot of congealed blood and other things in there. So they will eat their dung once the lions move off. I actually saw them on the ground as we drove in, so I think they might have already started eating their dung. But I'm sure there'll be lots of dung for them. Now, I heard from Aubrey that he found where these lions had actually killed a buffalo, and that's why all the fat bellies are there. Oh, Chandra, you've got dust on your lens. No, I'm joking. Chandra is a perfectionist, so we do like to tease him from time to time. I can hear a very cool little bird. I'll wait for it to get a bit closer, but it's right in the sun. And up to the right of that little bush. I don't know if you see that little movement there, Chandra. There, he's right at the back corner. Now, let's see if you can recognize. Oh, I think that might be a bit difficult. That is even a tough one for the serious birders out there. Or maybe you recognize the call. No, he's up. He's popped out into the open. Sorry, Jean-Ray, to do this to you. He's just moved out into the open now. Oh, and he flew away. Yeah, sorry. It was a little crombeck. But now the cubs have started watching John Ray while he was moving around trying to have a look at the little crombeck in the bush next to us. And it looks like it's playtime round 2 about to start. Copy F, Herbie is making space for you, so just make your way straight in. It's an incredible thing about little animals. They are a lot more active than adult versions. There we go. Herbie is being stalked as he leaves. Now, could that possibly be a little boy just based on his behavior? Is this junior version 2? Oh. And Herbie's leaving. You can just see Herbie's car disappear there. And he's moved away from the others to watch the car. He's still going to go watch. Now, the funniest thing, and lions in particular, lion cubs in particular, have a fascination with car wheels. Oh, we're going to stalk sibling. Is it sibling stalk time? Are we going to charge down the hill at sibling, who is lying in ambush at the bottom? Oh, look at those shoulders. Stalk mode is happening. No, don't get distracted. Oh, there we go. Boom, pounce. Take them to the ground. So you see a lot of that hunting behavior is instinctive. They know it from tiny, tiny creatures. And it's not something that needs to be taught. Arr, arr. So those birds we showed you earlier are vultures. So the hooded vulture in particular is 99.99% a scavenger. And Marianne in Arkansas was worried that they might be big enough to swoop down and grab a cub. Oh, they might be big enough. I don't think they'd be strong enough to lift a cub, and they'd get mom attached to them very quickly. So I think they are 100% safe from the hooded vultures. Their feces, however, isn't, and which is what these vultures are waiting for, is the lion feces. Copy, thanks, Abby. Oh, elephant scream in the distance. Oh, let's go annoy an aunt. Oh no, we're going to have a rest. Two are continuing the tussle. See, there we go, the instinctive throat grip. Oh dear. Oh. We've got downwind of lions that have decomposing buffalo in their bellies. What comes out the other end, oof, is quite vile. There we go. A car comes, and watch. Oh no, too busy to look at the spinning tires. Now that's a lion cub's favourite thing. They can't help it. You often will see their heads go round and round and round as they watch the tires go by. Ow! Listen to the noises they're making. Of course, now they stop making those noises, because it is some of the cutest noises you'll ever hear, so I'm just going to keep quiet for a while. Poor tired mom. I just want to sleep, guys. I need my 20 hours a day. Oh, Mom, here they come. Oh. Now, Curious One says, after watching these cubs play, she now understands why they have such tattered ears. And we thought it was the biting flies. Well, they normally don't rip each other's ears too much. A lot of the scarring on the back of a lion's ear, and not on the edges, is still from the biting flies. And, oh no, decided that, oh, I'm thirsty after all. Now, of course, if one has a drink, there's always another who believes it's just as deserving. Let me just go back a tiny bit so we can see a bit more. I just want to get us into a spot where we can see the suckling. I'm not sure how long it's going to last for. And playtime might take over again. Oh, itchy chin. There we go. See how their ears are flat, as if they were fighting over a kill. Just because there's another little lion cub near them. Oh, now there's going to be pandemonium. See, ears flat, that's a sign of aggression. Oh, biting mom. Mom is trying to make space for all three of them. You can actually hear soft growling from them. Look at that. My ears are still flat, as if they were competing around a kill. So, Justin's wondering, at what age are we going to start being able to tell the difference between the girls and the boys? Now, probably at about 2 to 3 months, males should start getting a bit bigger. Oh dear, Jean-Andre, we're in danger here. And it's not from the lions. It's from bombs from above. Grey go-away birds in the Tambusi tree. Now, grey go-away birds have a particularly active digestive system, and we are sitting right underneath their flight path towards the dam. So, fortunately, it seems to be more on Jean-Andre's side, with their feeding over there. There was one that took off that was feeding literally just above us. There they are. And when I say they have a very active digestive system, I'm not lying. So in Johannesburg, there's a lot of exotic fruit trees and other exotic trees, and people park their cars underneath them, and the grey go-away birds feces actually starts eating the paint off the cars. So I'd rather it fall on Jean-Andre than me, of course, and Jean-Andre agrees. It will help with his hair gel. Let's look at the cubs. They're still suckling.